This Breakroom episode was sponsored by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes launching your own website a breeze.
Welcome back to the Breakroom. The DCU has opened its door to its own multiverse, and the first time we go into it, we realize, are we the baddies? We're already getting into an Earth X scenario in the DCU, establishing all kinds of horrifying things about this Elseworld that Chris Smith and Judah Master and all these other people are wandering around right now. And I think we'll be able to learn even more about the main prime DCU from this. But like, there are other questions we could ask. Is Lex Luthor currently president of this other universe? Or is there any kind of presidency? Is it just like Hitler's son who's president? God, I hate to even speculate, but we're gonna join you down this very, very dark rabbit hole that James Gunn has pushed us down. So, welcome back. We're back here on the Breakroom. Yeah. We're gonna answer all your questions that we can in this Lingering Questions episode. I'm Erik Voss. Joining me here on this episode, we have John Costa.
I didn't realize before today that I kind of have a Keith look going on, and I don't know how I feel about that. White supremacy, bad.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement there. Also joining us on the show, Gina Ippolito.
Please, sir, Hitler was my father. Call me Steve.
Daughter of Hitler.
So in the show, we're going to answer all your questions that you may have had over the past few weeks about this Peacemaker show, about where the future of the DCU is going. Everything James Gunn's been saying in all these interviews, these social media responses about his plans for Batman, about set photos he may have been seeing from Clayface, about how big a character has to be in comics before James Gunn's willing to put them in a movie. We're talking about on this show about how these final 2 episodes of Peacemaker might go, who else might cameo for the rest of this season. And we want to try our best to answer your questions and all the horrifying things that may be true about the DCU currently. Before we get into this discussion, it's going to be a big week here in the new Rockstars Network. We're launching a new channel called The Witching Hour. The Witching Hour is coming out on Wednesday, October 1st, and it's going to be such an exciting thing that we're really, really pumped for you guys to see. Every Wednesday, starting October 1st, will be a new video essay about a classic horror film, starting this Wednesday, October 1st, with Jessica's video essay about feminist horror in Jennifer's Body. It's such a cool video. Our editors did great work for it. Jessica wrote just an amazing, amazing take. Following that, on Wednesday, October 8th, Gina has a video essay.
It's about Nightmare on Elm Street and the legacy. So if you like horror, if you like learning about film history, I go into a lot of what that movie meant for the industry, even today, even with like something like weapons, for instance. I connect all the dots between 1984's Nightmare on Elm Street and horror today. So, yeah.
And then the week after that, I do a video essay about Oz Perkins's long legs. And I connect the dots to 9/11 in that one. So you get seated, get closer.
I've heard of it.
Interesting. Erik will not let me do the video essay I want to do on Ken Burns' Civil War and how much of a nightmare it is to sit through that documentary.
John,
just kidding, it's a good piece of media.
John tried to torrent A24 Civil War and instead got Ken Burns'
I got sucked in.
I mean, what's better, that Civil War? I think Ken Burns' documentary Civil War is better.
It's got to be. It's a landmark piece of media.
Good. Yeah, it's excellent. It's just a different viewing experience. So subscribe over to the Witching Hour channel. I think you'll really, really like it. All right, let's get into Peacemaker Season 2. Episode 6 is the most recent episode to come out. We have 2 more episodes this season. It's established that this Elseworld that they are now in is actually a universe where the Germans won World War II. It's not just like, oh, the Confederates won the Civil War. Specifically, oh, who knows? Maybe that happened in the history before that. But specifically, the Germans are now in control of the United States in a kind of man in the high castle situation. But here we are in the modern year. So where it's been almost like 80 years since those events, or over 80 years, the American flag has a Nazi swastika on the blue field instead of 50 blue stars. We have an all-white citizenry that feels entitled if they see a person of color walking around, not to call any other authorities, but to swarm them in a mob and arrest them themselves. That to me was freaking scary. And then Keith even says, one got out. implying that there's some kind of prison camp or pocket dimension, or, it wasn't just that there was a genocide. I mean, maybe that also happened, but like, they're imprisoning them somewhere. And that's just really scary for me to even speculate on. That plus, the Beatles have Mick Jagger. Who knows what that? Halloween is as big as the Beatles are. Umlauts are in random words. Yeah. So I guess the question is, first off, like, where are they keeping them?
Where are they keeping them?
That's hard. That's hard to answer.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's all speculation, but I think the smart speculation is some kind of pocket dimension thing, just because that has been such a prevalent device in both Superman and in Peacemaker. And James Gunn has said that this season is going to be setting up Man of Tomorrow. Whether that just be the spoiler alert for a cameo, 3, 2, 1, Lex Luthor being in the most recent episode, and that Rick Flag deal being what he means by the setup, or if it does happen to deal with Earth X stuff. I think the pocket dimension makes the most sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we've focused so much on pocket dimensions that this might be something slightly different. But I will say that it's clearly no place that the average citizen can come across them. So it's obviously not like, oh, there's just like a prison right over there. That's because they're so terrified to see her, and like people are so shocked to see Leota that like out. That I don't think it's like they're not like showing it on the news. It's not like the kids in cages and they're like showing it on the news like we get in our society. I think that they are somewhere very siphoned off from like humanity at this point, and any of the options are equally terrible.
Yeah, and it's not fun to make theories about.
Right.
But it is something like, I did obsess over those 3 words, and that he said one got out, not one got in. Because if it were just something as like close to our world as like, decades of redlining and segregation and segregated neighborhoods and unfair housing policy and that sort of thing, then it would say, oh, one got into our gated neighborhood, the way that like the opening scene of Jordan Peele's Get Out played out, and Lakeith Stanfield kind of felt out of place walking around the suburb, as he said. Yeah, that is a real world bullshit thing. In this case, it sounds like it must have been super sequestered. I'm thinking pocket dimension just because James is going to set up a lot of other questions of like the kyphotic alien. What's he doing with this weird furnace thing? These other 98 doors that exist in the pocket dimension. Now I'm thinking the whole pocket dimension is built out in this way so that like the whole time they've been walking around the pocket dimension, if you'd opened any of these doors, what would you have found? Some other prison.
It's interesting, right? Like we see the origin of the at least the Smith family pocket dimension in this season with the alien and all that kind of stuff. Is that the same way that it happened in Earth X? Did it happen in a different way? But obviously, they still have access to it in that world. I wonder if we'll get answers to those questions. I don't think we necessarily need them. I think, not to invoke a show that we've invoked a million times, but like Lost, a lot of people were like, we need answers to every question. I didn't necessarily feel that way. I feel that same way in this show. I don't need an answer to every question unless it feels relevant to the story that they're trying to tell. So I don't need them to open every 98 door.
Definitely not, yeah.
I'm still waiting for them to open the rest of the doors in Nightmare Before Christmas. Like, I'm like, what does the turkey door?
I want to see
like,
the
what's
Easter Bunny.
Thanksgiving look like?
Is this bolder than, certain things have happened in America in the past month? Like, is this going to be a huge thing that now James Gunn is? I think it's a good thing that he is doing this. I applaud how bold this is. But like, basically the point he's making is that many people have blinders on when it comes to the normalization of fascism within a society, and that it's really easy for a lot of people to just overlook those basic horrors that a lot of us have just kind of like, treated as a baseline. And that Chris Smith is still even in denial of it when Harcourt points it out. So like, I don't know, like, is this going to, in the after show podcast, it seemed even like James Gunn and Jennifer Holland and Steve Agee were just kind of like, yep, this happened. But I think it's a huge thing for a big show and a major superhero cinematic franchise. Like, imagine if like the Marvel Cinematic Universe did this. Like if Loki at some point took Loki to another or if Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness at some point they tumble into a dimension where everything seems fine, but like almost like the Treehouse of Horror episode of the Toaster of Time, we go into a dimension where it's like
just watched it yesterday.
a Big Brotherian, but not just Big Brotherian, like specifically Nazi-controlled universe. Like if we went there in Sam Raimi's Multiverse of Madness or in Michael Waldron's Loki, it would have been insane. It would have been wild. A lot of us would have been like, hell yeah, Marvel, you should explore the darkest corners of our imaginations. But for some reason, we would never expect Marvel to do that. But James Gunn, now in control of the DCU, it's kind of like, yeah, let's get this punk rock imp and see where he takes us.
Hey, Zach here. One of our sponsors today is Squarespace. If the turn of the leaves makes you realize it's finally time to get that apple cider donut website up and running, Squarespace can make that happen faster than you can harvest a bushel of Granny Smiths, or Fuji's, or Honey Crisps, or any of the other good varietals. Squarespace is an all-in-one tool that gives you everything you need to make a website that looks good and does whatever you need it to do. If you're selling goods or services, Squarespace can help you untangle digital payment platforms with just a few clicks, making it easy to start receiving payments right away using popular payment methods like Apple Pay, ACH Direct Debit, Klarna, and more. If you're not a graphic designer, don't worry. Squarespace's design intelligence tool makes it so easy to get your website looking just right. It combines 2 decades of industry-leading design expertise with cutting-edge AI technology. Every Squarespace website is optimized to be indexed with a meta description, an auto-generated sitemap, and more, so you show up more often to more people in global search engine results. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/breakroom to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because if this show was made 10 years ago, say, or like let's go like even further back, if it was made 20 years ago, like people would be like, oh yeah, this is like so important, this is a really good message, because it's made now at this time. Of course, like there's a percentage of the population that's like, what are you trying to say, blah 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 blah. It's like The Boys, anything that like feels sort of like it's a commentary on today, like nowadays is so charged. But like if you go back to like the Twilight Zone, like they were doing stuff like this on a regular basis. Like they were like, hey, fascism is bad, Nazism is bad, here's what happens, like blah 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 blah. But because it's today, you can't just make a point anymore and have people be like, yeah, evil is bad, and like that's the end of it. Like now it's just like, what are you trying to say, James Gunn? Come to my house. Come to my house with your face. I'll punch you with a PBR. Nothing against PBR people. I love PBR. I'm just saying you can't have an episode like this and just be like, it's not what it was 10 years ago, where like you have an episode and you're like, wow, what a good like episode of TV. Like, yeah, look at this, like a dimension where they've like wrangled up all the people of color and put them in a zoo or whatever they're doing. Nowadays, everything is so loaded that like, yeah, to have an episode like this and just be like, yeah, that happened. Like you can't do that anymore. Now it's just like, well, I guess James Gunn is getting death threats to his house.
It's a complicated topic. There's been a lot of conversations about free speech in the media lately. Of course, I have friends who worked on Jimmy Kimmel Live, and and not necessarily over the last week, but in the past, and knowing about them and their jobs and all of that kind of stuff. Like I do think it is important that we, like Gina said, tell stories that matter, and I think as storytellers, for the beginning of time, we've been trying to tell stories that matter and make a difference and all that kind of stuff. And to give Marvel a little bit of credit, I think that Brave New World sort of attempted to tackle a story like this. I don't think that the storytelling was that successful, and I don't think that they went as far as they maybe should have or could have, but I don't blame the creatives for that. I don't know who you blame for that. That being said,
Anthony Mackie specifically.
Yeah, for sure. He wanted it a ton.
He had a lot of notes on the script.
I heard. But like this show, more than a Loki or anything like that, is set up really well to tell a story like this. You have season 1 of Peacemaker, which obviously was made only a few years ago, and still we were in a similar political climate. But these characters have existed before that, and you have a character like Peacemaker whose dad is a white supremacist, and you see him in the Suicide Squad, and he is saying he wants peace at any price, and he doesn't care how many people he has to kill to get there. And so you can take a character like that, and what James Gunn loves to do is show them their flaws and then show them how they learn from their flaws and become better people. And I think that it would have been a mistake to not go in this direction. Because you need to show, first of all, again, I think the nature of this is going to lead to a political conversation either way. We try to not talk about that so much in New Rockstars because I know a lot of people come to this channel to escape politics.
You come to this place for...
That's right. Whatever Nicole says.
Wonder.
But, I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
Here's what I was going to say. I was at home. That's why I was not on Breakroom for the last couple of weeks. And so I had a conversation with my mom and my extended family about my extended family and all this kind of stuff. And it is important to tell people that change is possible. And Chris is a person who, on the surface maybe is an asshole or is, raised in an environment where he very well could have gone in the other direction, and he struggles with that decision in Earth X. And I think James Gunn is doing a good job, or at least I hope it sticks the landing, of saying there are people out there who have these viewpoints, and some of them are too far gone, but hopefully not everyone is. And I know that, speaking from my own experiences, I was raised in a pretty conservative household, and I love my parents to death, and I don't think that they were, this far as it's portrayed in the show by any means. But, I've changed a lot since I was a kid, and things that I've believed and things that I've learned about myself and other people. And so I appreciate that this show is brave enough to tell a story and shed a light and hold a mirror to our society, but also have a message of change is possible, and we should not be so... It's hard to be... I've felt resigned to sort of I need to turn off the news because it's too hard to watch right now or whatever. But that's why we have shows like this, because if you can't watch the news, at least you can watch something like this and maybe show it to someone who is struggling with their viewpoints or whatever it is. And realize that, we're not a perfect society, but there is a place we can go to improve. That was a very soapboxy moment for me.
No, well, that's...
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
I personally have been burying myself in Fat Bear Week content for the past 2 weeks.
Did you see that bear that just was and every salmon was just flying by? He was just lazily biting.
That's
me. Whenever the Dodgers win and I get the $6 Panda plate.
I love
that. I think James Gunn is a master of storytelling 101 is you have your characters or your main character wanting something desperately. And by the end of season 1 or somewhere along their journey, you give it to them. But storytelling 101 is then that goes horribly wrong, or it ends up being exactly the opposite of what they wanted or what they needed. Again, they did this with Lost. All they wanted was to get off the island, and then they got it, and then they had to go back because it was exactly. And you can say this with pretty much any TV show that's a hero struggling with this. Oh, they got it. Oh crap. And James Gunn has done this when Star-Lord desperately wants family, and he's like, here's your dad. And he's like, oh my God, my dad is everything that I want. And my dad's an 80s hunk. I wanted my dad to be an 80s hunk. Oh, he's trying to kill all of us. So James Gunn is a master at this. And I think, making it Chris's one true goal to have a family, whether that be a found family or whether he had a better connection with his dad, and to have his brother be alive, and then giving him everything he wants, and then making it the most despicable thing in the most despicable universe ever. That's classic James Gunn. I think so. I think a lot of people. I had a buddy text me last night that was like, "Hey, were people surprised by this twist? Because I thought we sort of all knew it since episode 2, and I guess a lot of people online were surprised by the twist that it was." Not the greatest universe. I think people online thought it was oh, look at this perfect universe. But I think we at New Rockstars were we're noticing something about this, and that's what makes James Gunn so good, is that he sets it up hey, here's everything he wants, and this this does look like nice. Like his dad is complimenting him and he gets to drink beers with his dad and his brother and like everything seems like clean and peaceful and Amelia loves him and everyone's around and he's got a good job. And then it's like, oh yeah, but there's a price to play. You just made a monkey's paw wish and it came back to bite you in the ass, Peacemaker.
Yeah. I think one of the, you talked about him going there and, having his family there, and if it's okay if he says like, okay, this earth is not as good as I wanted it to be, but my family is here, and what decision he's going to have to make. I think if we knew we were going to get a season 3, it might make me think that he might choose Earth X a little bit more. But the line of dialogue that concerns me the most in this most recent episode was, I don't have it verbatim, but when he's talking to Amelia when she's like in the holding room after getting caught for cocaine, he said something like, the Amelia in this world is not you, but it's good enough. That is, I would be very afraid that Chris's opinion about Earth X is similar, which is like, well, it's not perfect, but it is good enough.
Oh, I think this is why they've been setting up his BFF-ness with Leota, like for so long, because I think that this is, at first I was like, oh, is he gonna have to make the hard decision about what universe to stay in? But I think he's evolved to a point now where like alt universe Amelia is gonna be like, you have to choose. He's gonna be like, fuck you, I'm not choosing you. You're a Nazi.
She does suck.
like I think he is gonna see that. I think the second he finds out that like his best friend was chased by a group of white supremacists, he's gonna be like, oh, we're gonna bomb this crappy universe back to the Stone Age.
Yeah, and the fact that his brother honked the horn and blew the loudest dog whistle possible. Not even a dog whistle.
It was a whistle.
Said it out loud. And one got out, like blaring the horn. I just find that so creepy. And like the fact that no one was like even subtle about it. You guys make some really good points there. Specifically that, season 1 didn't hide its politics at all. Like you go from Adrian kicking a bunch of Nazis' asses in prison, like the way that ends with like Klan hoods as they're like chasing Chris around the forest, like that's what the show is. And if it didn't go further into that, it would feel cowardly in some ways. It'd feel like, there's no way James Gunn wouldn't go further with it. So I think that's why a lot of us kind of felt like they're obviously going here. I think the reason why it still felt like, whoa, is that like they actually went there, like to show the American flag with, it wasn't just an SS, it was just straight up. And I'm glad that they did that, like, cause let's call it out, let's go there. I'm glad that we're here. I'm terrified by what else we might have to look at these next 2 episodes.
Well, and to your point about that, and your friend texting you like, didn't everyone see the twist coming? Or if you didn't, that's fine. But like, it was executed in a way where like, okay, that was my expectation, and seeing Adebayo walking around made me so uncomfortable and so nervous for her.
Yes, the second she says, "I'm going to go for a walk, you want to come?" and he's like, "No,"
and so it's like okay that we kind of saw the twist coming, because it still had my heart in my throat, or whatever the expression is.
This is what people need to learn about M. Night Shyamalan, people. It's not all about the twist. Okay. Sometimes it's just about good storytelling.
And we haven't talked about is like, I still love Judo Master, and he's out there somewhere too. We don't know where he is.
I'm worried.
And I'm worried.
Him.
I'm worried. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm worried about all of them.
Hey, it's Zach here. I want to talk to you about something. I've never paid enough attention to my underwear. If I'm being honest, I usually just bought whatever was the cheapest brand I happened to come across whenever I needed a few new pairs, Because of that, I just assumed all underwear was kind of the same level of uncomfortable. Then I found out about Skims, okay? They started making underwear for men, and I figured I'd try it out. It is ridiculously comfortable. I got a few pairs of the stretch boxer briefs, and they're truly some of the most comfortable underwear I've ever worn. They're lightweight and sleek and have that perfect balance between keeping everything in place while also making you feel like you're wearing nothing at all. My only complaint is that I wish I'd had a couple pairs during that hot LA summer, okay? But better late than never. Shop Skims Men's at skims.com. That's SKIMS.com. Let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows.
My hope is that, like, well, where does this go? We've seen this in other media before. Like, one battle after another is kind of interestingly takes place in an Elseworld. Like that is based off of our reality, but it is an Elseworld. The almost Inglourious Bastards takes place in Nazi-occupied France. And like it ends with an explosive Elseworldy ending. Are we gonna get a GI Robot-esque massacre? Because that might even go further. That like now we got to have a crazier discourse based off of what happened in the past month. Yeah,
I mean, I think it would be cathartic to see everyone in this universe sort of like get their asses kicked. For me, at least. I think that seeing Judo Master trying to go and just like buy some Flamin' Hot Cheetos and like everyone giving them stink eye and then him just like murdering an entire supermarket full of Nazis would be great. I do think that like at some point when this universe becomes aware of the other universe, like, fascists aren't just happy taking over their own little slice of Earth or multiple Earths. Like they want all of them to. That's what fascism is. It spreads and they want it to spread. So I think like the group is going to have to be like, hey, we got to get back to where we come from. But also it's going to be made obvious that like if they don't sort of neutralize this threat, they're going to like invade the other universes and be like, wait, there's other universes where Nazis aren't in charge? We need to take those over too. And then our group is going to be like, I guess we got to either like permanently shut the doors somehow or kill everyone in this universe.
I also think like, I think James Gunn has come out and said that we're going to see a live action GI Robot in another project.
Okay.
Maybe not in this project.
Yeah.
Although I think that would be very fun. Yeah. I do think it's going to be down to, I forget their name, but the group that Adrian is associated with in this universe. Sons of Liberty, thank you. And, we'll find out that Peacemaker saving that government building was maybe the wrong choice or whatever it ends up being. I think they're probably going to be the main resistance that our sort of like prime universe team has to team up with. I would guess.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind if like it sort of leaves it in like hey, like look, like you guys are sort of in charge now, but you need to like fix this.
Yeah.
Bye. We have crap to fix in our own universe. Like, but yeah, I think that some sort of cathartic thing has to happen. I also think maybe Chris is gonna have to kill his dad, his brother again.
I think you're absolutely right about that.
I think and then this time he has to sort of like be okay with it. Because he's gotta get over that sort of mental hurdle.
If he is sincere about peace at any price,
that
means having to kill your white supremacist brother and father, and yourself that he already killed.
Yeah. And he seemed like pretty unaffected by it.
Yeah.
Like he was.
That would be an interesting. Like Adrian, which was such a fun scene and such a downer episode, but like they were so great together. And there are two differing opinions on Peacemaker. Now Adrian could say like, well, we did kill Peacemaker.
Yeah. And he has to like convince him like, no, our Peacemaker is better. He's like not great yet, but he's like better. Also, we killed yours. His body is stuffed in a little weird futuristic
slowly decomposing.
thing. Also,
did they burn it, right? Like they burned
did they burn it? I was gonna say otherwise that whole pocket dimension's gonna stink.
It's gonna stink.
Oh man. Yeah. So any other kind of questions you guys had about this piece of, we have some questions about what other cameos might happen.
Joked about this at our meeting today, but like I gotta ask, is Michael Rooker gonna show up just like half his face hanging off from like eagle attacks like at the end? Like, is he coming back? Is he officially dead?
I have not talked about Peacemaker with you guys since I've been gone. Like, there's now magic.
Yeah.
Like eagle magic exists in the universe.
It could have been his perspective. It could have been Michael Rooker's like peyote-addled brain.
He really found it. He found the cabin using this magic, using this sight, this vision, whatever it is. It validated his cultural appropriation if he was able to do it. Now, ultimately, the Eagles got him back, so I feel justified.
There's the prime eagle.
We know magic exists. Rick Flag was dating Enchantress. Like we know magic exists.
Cersei exists in the DCU.
Speaking of Rick Flag Sr., that's one of the questions that I have coming out of this episode is he was very quick to shoot down any kind of release or immunity from Lex when they were talking at Belle Reve. But then he seemed kind of cagey about the deal that they made when he was back at Argus and talking to Bordeaux. Or maybe it was, whoever.
Cyborg Doe.
Sorry, Cyborg Doe. So, like, what do you guys think? Is there more to that deal? Did he break, and is he going to get immunity? Because obviously this is maybe setting up Man of Tomorrow.
There's got to be
What
more
is
to
that?
this deal.
Yeah, what is the more to this deal?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, I do think James Gunn seems like the type of guy that would like pay homage to the original, like, you know, Superman Lex Luthor, like Superman 2 Lex Luthor jailbreak, where he literally just like was in a sort of a minimum security prison and took a hot air balloon out of there. Like, if it is like, oh, we're taking you from this prison and we're gonna put you in like kind of a cushy, you know, like prison, which also is like a commentary on things that are going on right now with sex criminals being put into cushy little, like, not as severe situations. But like, if he was like, yeah, okay, you don't like being next to metahumans, we'll put you in this nice, and then Lex just like immediately breaks out because he shouldn't be held in a like a minimum security prison. I think that would be fun. I don't know if he has that kind of juice. Like if Argus right now has that kind of juice to be like, hey, we're gonna take a really high profile prisoner, put him in a really minimum security prison and not keep an eye on him too closely. I don't know.
Especially when it seems like Rick Flag is on a personal vendetta against Peacemaker.
Right.
And if the president or like high-ranking officials in the United States government, not that he's not that, but you know, we're sort of more serious about him finding Peacemaker, maybe you could see him having that sway. But if it's just him sort of going on a power trip, yeah, maybe not.
Yeah. I mean, I do think it'd be cool if it connects, if whatever his actions do here because of his personal vendetta have like a domino effect on Lex eventually getting out through legal or nefarious means.
What we do know is that he's being transferred to a prison called Van Kull, and it is something that in the comics is just outside of the city of Metropolis. And I think by James Gunn putting that in episode 6, he's really just indicating to us like he's moving from a Louisiana prison to a Delaware Metropolis prison, which is just closer. And looking at the preview for episode 7, it looks like Sidney Saperson's going to get deshackled, and part of this deal he's made is like, oh, look at the... they're going to revisit that floating command center from Superman that is now under Argus storage. It's in a big warehouse. So my thinking is that like Sydney, just by being back in that facility, is going to reactivate it, shoot its way out of whatever the storage is, float over to Van Kull, and like open up a hole there for Lex to get out. Like, I don't know. There's some weaponry on that thing. Sydney, wasn't he surprised that it floats? Like when it detached from the building, he goes, this thing flies? Like he was excited. So I don't know, maybe he got to look at the schematics, or Otis knows other things about this hardware, that it's going to either open a portal or something that they're going to help Lex break out.
Yeah, it did have the a door to Lex's pocket universe in the back of it, so maybe he can find a way to open one in the prison or something like that.
Yeah, maybe Van Kull has something there. There's some other kind of scientist who's also in Van Kull who's going to help Lex break out. That's my thinking of what happens next. It's just, are there other big cameos that we don't know about? Are there...
I'm sure there's got to be at least one more, like in the finale or
trying
something.
to think of like who from the Suicide Squad is alive and in prison, but I don't know that there are any of those people, right? Like at the end, I think the threat was, we'll release the documents if you fuck with us again. So I don't know if we'll get any like the Suicide Squad cameos.
Yeah, it's so hard to tell because like my instant impression would be like anyone from any Batman or Batman related property would go over like gangbusters. Like if, let's say, if you have Margot Robbie, or if you like introduce a new Batman, which are both too big for this show, but you know, you could get Alan Tudyk as like Clayface in there, or something like just something weird, something that's like, ooh, a Batman thing. But I think that James Gunn has said, like, you know, we don't like to do anything until like the scripts are done, and I don't think Batman is far enough along yet that he knows exactly what he wants to do, and I don't think he wants to have to like recut the end scene again like he did with like Peacemaker season 1 to like adjust for that. So I think like, you know, we've already seen Hawkgirl, we've already seen like I don't know. I think it would be great to see. Yeah, I don't know. Like I would love to see anyone from Batman, but I think that would be confirming. That would like make the internet explode because it'd be like, oh, Batman. Are we confirming that like Margot Robbie is going to be Harley Quinn like going forward for all the Batmans? Is like, who's going to be the Joker? Who's going to be this? So yeah, it's so hard because one pull on that string and it like unravels everything.
It seems like everything James Gunn has said is that Peacemaker's final episodes will very much set up Man of Tomorrow. So we're going to get some next steps for Lex.
Yeah.
But these other 2026 titles include Lanterns, Supergirl, and
That's a great point about
Clayface.
Lanterns.
Do we think Peacemaker sets up any of these three?
I would love it to set up Clayface just because that's the one we've seen the least. So, because, you know, like we don't really want another Supergirl cameo. I mean, I love her, that's nothing against, but it's like stuff that we've already seen isn't as exciting as like, oh crap, there's Clayface, which also, by the way, I'm sure would be, if you see him as Clayface, probably more than like the entire budget of Peacemaker is like worth to be like, yeah, let's perfect this CGI of this major character for an HBO show by the finale. Like, I don't know, but we could, I think, like see him in his human form and like get his name out and be like, well, there's Clayface. I think that would be cool.
I wouldn't be surprised if at this point for Clayface, they've already done a lot of previs stuff and have the model for Clayface and maybe have done some like lighting and animation tests.
Yeah.
So they might have something for that, although it's still very early. I think it's most likely we see David Cornsweet as Superman. Again, talking about continuing setting up, you know, Man of Tomorrow, or even more likely, probably we've already gotten Viola Davis in this show and having Waller come back and set up. I think the Waller show is still happening. And James Gunn this week said, like, we're not planning necessarily a Peacemaker season 3, but we'll see these characters again. That feels like a Waller type of direction. So
what if it's just James Gunn like saying "F you" to everyone and having a Blade cameo?
Are you sure you're ready for this?
Everyone's like, wait, isn't that a Marvel? What? And then he's like, yeah.
It was. I mean, Spider-Man exists in the world of Peacemaker if they referenced it. So I think Brandon Davis asked like James Gunn, like, okay, well then who directed Guardians of the Galaxy according to a movie that Vigilante watched? And he said Edgar Wright directed it, and it was better than the movie he directed.
Aww.
And it's just a nice thing to say. I do think if any movie character shows up, it would be Millie Alcock as Supergirl, only because, and this is just like me stepping back and looking at the industry side of it, you could imagine Millie Alcock being like, it's an HBO thing? Okay. Like she has relationships with HBO people from being on House of the Dragon.
Yeah.
So like her just suiting up in whatever she would suit up in for an HBO thing, it just seems like, okay, yeah, I could do that. It seems harder to get like a movie character, like Tom Reese Harry's as a Clayface seems like a harder sell, even though they are shooting that right now. I just know that they shot Superman around the same time they were shooting Peacemaker, so if they could get Nicholas Hoult to show up, I feel like they could get Millie Alcock.
Yeah.
I know Cornsweet was on set. Just James Gunn has given mixed answers. Like he said, oh no, Superman's not going to be in it. But I you know, you just don't trust anything.
Yeah.
You could go back and see Jennifer Holland said like, what's Earth X? Like, you know, they all kind of.
Remind me, was Cornsweet in the reshot prologue this season?
You see his like sort of
Silhouette.
silhouette.
Okay, so but he didn't have dialogue or anything. Okay.
No.
Only Guy Gardner
okay.
and Hawk Girl did, but I don't know. I still feel like he could easily show up. He's a friend to James Gunn.
Yeah. I just think like if there is, I think that all of these things are true. I just think that if he wants to have a like one more oh my god cameo, it can't be someone that we've seen before because like, you know, like we've already seen Cornsweet and Millie Alcock, like they're silhouettes, and we already know a lot about them, and they're already gonna be like in a ton of promos and stuff like that. I just think it's got to be like either some character that makes the audience be like, "Oh crap, is he setting up this?" or some major like storyline point. But that's only like if he wants to leave people with like, "Oh crap, did you see the finale of Peacemaker? This happened in the last 2 minutes. It's clearly setting up this, or it introduced this character." That's what I want. I want new stuff. I have a short attention span, James Gunn.
I'm okay not getting it. I want them to stick the landing with this. And not to say that you can't do both.
Yeah, you want the Blade cameo?
I would much prefer the Blade cameo to... No, I would much prefer they end the story on the terms of the characters who we've been watching, rather than end the story on like a... oh my god, what's coming next? Especially if this is the last season of Peacemaker.
But I do think he loves one last little stunt after the main story is told.
Sure, and we've gotten like post-credit scenes for all of these episodes this season, though they've not really been...
They're bloopers,
like,
basically.
They're basically bloopers or like extended improv or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But maybe the last episode is more of a post-credit scene type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that they do end the show only because if they do want to bring it back, there's a dozen different ways James Gunn can bring it back as a spinoff. Agents of Argus, probably not because we have that in Creature Commandos currently. But yeah, you could follow a number of characters. You know, we were already talking about a Mr. Terrific Jimmy Olsen show. Also, if you do a third season of Peacemaker, it means all these actors you bring back, you gotta pay more. So, I think James Gunn is very much a budgetarian.
Is his wife. So,
Yeah.
Sure, one, but like John Cena's not cheap.
It's just Weasel, like live action Weasel coming back in, and he's like, he like doesn't pay his brother anything.
Yeah, I can't remember like when they initially greenlit this. It was probably contracted for at least 2 seasons, but it's usually that third season, right, where actors all renegotiate. And
if you're lucky enough to get to season 3, you got them by the balls.
And who knows if this whole Michael Crichton estate lawsuit against the pit goes forward, we may get a good look at the books of everything Zaslav is profiting from these HBO shows.
Let's get Noah Wiley.
That's a complicated
into the Peacemaker
sentence.
Universe.
A lot of you are kind of like, what the fuck did he just say?
Peacemaker's like very badly hurt, and then you just hear like,
he was in the hospital
to
start the series.
Watch The Pit, guys.
It's so good. I'm rewatching it now. That's that good. I barely have time to do anything except rewatch The Pit.
We spend all of our working hours watching television so that we can talk about television. And then we spend all of our off hours watching television because we love television.
Exactly.
Well, we'll leave it there. Thank you all so much for joining us. So on Wednesday, we'll have another Breakroom show with some familiar faces you may know. Maybe some people who you know from them sparring with you in the chats because you crossed the line somewhere. Maybe they'll be on camera this time. But all month long, we're going to be here on the Breakroom, generally Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. There will be another really fun episode of the Breakroom that streamed on Twitch last week, but it will be as a YouTube upload sometime this week. With some people that we love, and I can't wait for you to see that episode. A really, really fun episode. But then, all month long, you're going to see all kinds of people that are normally familiar faces on New Rockstars, but maybe people you've heard us talk about are going to be making their on-screen debuts in the month ahead.
Blade? Is Blade going to show up on the Breakroom?
Maybe.
You'll have to stay tuned.
But subscribe to all the channels on the New Rockstars Network, specifically The Witching Hour. I pulled a Forrest Gump feather. Just kind of did like what Vigilante does in Harry Potter 6. Thank you all for joining us. Stay tuned for The Witching Hour this week on Wednesday. It's definitely going to be worth your time. I can't wait for everyone to see it. It's really, really great work's been happening over there. And maybe by the time you're watching this episode, you could have seen our Meet the Editors video on The Witching Hour channel. A video that will interest you, not just if you subscribe to The Witching Hour, but if you've watched anything related to New Rockstars. Go watch this video just to meet these 4 amazing people. One of them is sitting with us right now, John. But yeah, a very cool video that I'm going to be pointing people to whenever they ask questions about.
We promise you at least a little bit of Hank content.
He's in the background. Yeah. He's wandering around. This is pre-hospital Hank.
Oh no,
is
you
Hank
can't
okay?
You can't drop all that and then.
No,
he's
John.
joking. Hank is okay.
Kill that dog. No, he's fine. In fact, I thought he was going to need surgery, and it turns out he doesn't.
Yay!
Yeah.
Hank's okay.
It's okay.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll see you Wednesday. Bye, everybody.